Have you heard the news? F-150 Lightning halts production. Cybertruck sends the entire production line home. And it looks like its meteoric rise is free falling. Yeah, not exactly. There's a lot of EV truck news out there right now, but there's even more behind the clickbait that you and I are kind of getting used to. So let's take a closer look and get totally trucked up. It is true that Ford has halted production of its F-150 Lightning, but not permanently, and not for the reasons much of the corporate media and influencers alike are claiming right now. First, let's look at actual numbers and see how sales have been going so far. As of the end of September, the last reporting period, Ford had sold 7,162 units in Q3, which is a money bag speak for 3 months. Because you wouldn't want to just say 3 months because you've got to sound more important. That total was 22,807 units year to date, an 86% increase over the previous year. However, Ford's factory and growth plans had been shooting for 150,000 units per year, hoping for a 400% increase, which obviously didn't materialize. So how does all of this play into recent announcements that Ford has halted Lightning production until January 7th, 2025? Most media and influencers would have you believe that sales are tanking. And why wouldn't you believe that? I mean, of course you're going to believe that because production was halted. But based on registrations of new vehicles in North America, that doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, when CBS News reported on this, it interviewed the laid-off plant workers as to why this was happening.
Kids' gifts, it's like real devastating.
Waters tells me he feels sales of electric cars and trucks are slow because charging isn't readily available.
Well, that's important to get that perspective, but it's not anywhere near an expert opinion or factually grounded journalistic criteria. But its article still cited waning consumer demand, even though it gave no source to back that claim up. Ford's statement was this: "We continue to adjust production for an optimal mix of sales growth and profitability." In jargon speak, that means we want to make more money, spend less, and figure out how to sell more later. Ford is losing a lot of money from its electric division. There's no doubting that. But remember, even Tesla did for well over a decade. We shouldn't forget the fact that up until 2019, its ink was red, and it had to go through that process to completely set up 100% EV operations in full-scale production. Ford reported a $1.2 billion, that's with a B, loss from its separate EV subsidiary known as Model E, and projects a loss of $5 billion for the entire year. But at no time does Ford cite plummeting or waning consumer demand, instead attributing the red balance sheet to, quote, industry-wide pricing pressure. So what's really going on? And why would Ford stop production if sales aren't falling? Two reasons. One, dealerships. When the Lightning first rolled out, there were hundreds of thousands of paid pre-orders, very similar to what we saw with the Cybertruck. And unlike Tesla, Lucid, and Rivian, who directly avoided the dealership model, Ford has little control over what those dealerships will do with that pent-up demand and reservation list. Well, in the United States at least, they did exactly what everyone would expect from US dealerships. They ordered only the most expensive trims and jacked up the price to astronomical levels with market adjustments. Some recorded as high as $50,000 US above the MSRP. What has only recently become apparent is that most of those pre-orders originally made were for the cheapest trims. Ford had deliberately promoted at the reveal event that the Lightning would start on par with the Cybertruck single motor at $39,900 US, but it would offer dual motors in even the lowest trim. For the first time, truck buyers could get an affordable truck and also go electric. The opposite happened. When those pre-order holders were contacted by their dealerships, they arrived to car lots filled with trucks, all topping $100,000 US, and then they basically walked, waving their middle finger as they jumped back in their aging gas F-150. This trend continued right through to mid-2023 when all those pre-orders were exhausted and most had flipped the bird to the dealerships and canceled their order. It was only then that we saw a bigger production of XLTs and Pros, and they became somewhat more available. But the damage was already done. Ford had lost a massive loyal buyer base and all those yummy ramp-up numbers along with it. This leads to today. US dealerships got caught with their pants around their ankles and their lots full of aging Platinum and Lariat trims that offered less goodies than the newly arriving 2024s and 2025s, such as things like the vapor-injected heat pump or FAP. And we're now competing with the Flash, which is by far the most value for dollar Lightning of them all. All one has to do is take a tour of any US Ford dealership with Lightnings on the lot, and you'll find 2023s as well as 2024 higher trims. The same did not happen in Canada because dealerships honored MSRP here right through the boom, but they couldn't actually get any inventory as most of it went to the massive dealer groups south of the border. In the end, dealerships now needed help with unloading all that stale inventory they already have. The second reason is the formation of the Model E Retail Replenishment Center, or I hate acronyms. Like it, I'll get over it eventually. Maybe, probably not. Ford saw what the damage of the dealership model had done and was seeking solutions that could help both the dealership and the consumer and get more of these things coming off the line. Late this year, it came up with one. Rather than dealerships dictating what was available on the lot, but also exposing itself to massive risk if they couldn't sell what they had ordered, dealerships could now grab an extra total of $22,500 US by not holding their own inventory and directly acquiring a customer's truck from the RCC. This did two things. One, it eliminated the need for holding large inventories, and two, allowed the customer to choose the truck they wanted and get it quicker than ordering it from the factory if the dealer didn't have it on the lot. Win-win. But that meant Ford and the dealerships needed to clear the deck by the end of 2024 of all that leftover inventory that the dealerships had built up. Ford knew it needed better control over distribution and move closer to a direct sales model like Lucid, like Tesla, like Rivian, all while ensuring dealerships can make their cut and stay in business. The Cybertruck, however, that headline is possibly far more ominous. After shortening the hours for the Cybertruck production line earlier in the year, this week, Inside EVs and Business Insider reported that Tesla had sent its Cybertruck production workers home for 3 days and that regular production would resume beginning of the week. The memo, as reported by Business Insider, read, quote, "On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, December 3rd to 5th, you do not need to report to work," end quote. Multiple sources from line workers themselves also reported that their schedule has been completely disrupted and very inconsistent since the beginning of October. However, to be fair here, this could simply be a timeout to make adjustments, maybe to the factory floor, although there is no evidence of that. But some might claim this is just bad reporting because no one knows the real reason for the stoppage. But that isn't the fault of any of these news sources. That's the fault of Tesla refusing to respond, release, or report any statement since it has no media department. What? It gets worse, however, when we start digging deeper. In the time of Model 3's production hell, Tesla managed to still produce over 100,000 units of the Model 3 in its first 12 months. Let's take that for a moment. Think about that. This is the worst time for Tesla in its history. Keep in mind that Tesla almost went bankrupt, and it was not yet designed to handle mass production. Now, 8 years later, Tesla's considered the juggernaut in the auto industry for production efficiency and speed. So why is it then that since its first deliveries in November of 2023, the Cybertruck has only produced 27,185 units by the end of October 2024? That's a little over a quarter of Model 3s made during the startup production hell. Even more damning are these facts. Tesla clearly stated in its own financials that it planned to increase production of the Cybertruck to 250,000 units per year by 2025. That's a month away. 27,185 versus 250,000. Tesla received over 1 million reservations by May of 2021 and was estimated to have approached 2 million prior to its launch. Current buyers ordering the Cybertruck are being contacted within weeks, which leads to the question, has Tesla exhausted its entire reservation list? If that's only partially true, that's an exodus that makes the recent X to Blue Sky migration look like a subatomic particle. Canada reservation holders were told by Tesla that no Cybertrucks would be available until, quote, at least 2025, unquote. It's still 2024, and people are not only ordering them, but driving them around. The Ford story might look gloomy, but there's a big silver lining underneath, and there's no sign that sales are slowing. On the other hand, if these numbers hold true and production continues to be interrupted in Austin, the Cybertruck might not make the long-term cut as a viable trucked up EV. As you can see, I'm finally setting up my new studio. We're partially moved into the house, only I just returned from my Canada-wide trucked up coffee stop tour. There are more revealing videos from that trip still to come. And then there's some big wrap-ups and some amazing stuff that I discovered about chargers. And I hope that you'll check them all out as I launch them. I also hope you'll take this moment to help me reach that whopping 3,000 subscriber target. We're over 2,900. We're growing fast thanks to all of you. Also, Christmas is around the corner. And what better time to fight the tradition of ugly mistletoe fluffy sweaters than getting a trucked up hoodie or sweatshirt? Instead, woo your friends and relatives with far more people trying to kiss you than a woolen thistle embroidery. Check out the links below and act fast to get yours. Once again, as always, thanks for watching.